There's a lot to like in this movie. Was surprised at how progressive it was. I'm probably going to keep revisiting this movie.
I also felt like this held up way better than I thought it would. Welcome back to Kyle and Dave versus the Machine. This week we got to watch Tootsie.
Yeah.
Tootsie, apparently.
Toot and Tootsie. Watch the trailer.
Kyle,
that makes way more sense.
How'd it go?
You may remember, I was feeling a little bit nervous revisiting a film 40 years old about a man in drag. There's no way they are going to be approaching this with any type of sensitivity or progressiveness. I am here to tell you, I was actually fairly surprised at how progressive I actually thought Tootsie was. Now, we delve into it with guest Jose Luna.
Maybe we don't have to do this alone.
A lot of this was ghost written by Elaine May. Maybe she was able to look at this and be like, absolutely not. If you're going to be making a movie about sexism, you cannot have like this say this. So I'm going to massage this a bit. I thought there was a lot of funny bits. I think where we agree, Dave, is the last 15 minutes of the movie, kind of the wrap up of the movie kind of falters a bit, but the jokes are great. The characters are great. There's a lot to like in this movie. Was surprised at how progressive it was. I'm probably going to keep revisiting this movie.
I also felt like this held up way better than I thought it would. The performances are fantastic. Dustin Hoffman, we saw him last year in Straw Dogs. You would think that in 1982, even an all-time great American actor would have problems portraying himself as a middle-aged woman, but it's actually quite believable. It's not bad. The script is fantastic. It definitely holds up.
Yeah,
all of the jokes land really
I don't
well.
think can tell like that 7 or 8 people worked on it. Like it does feel more cohesive than that.
Kyle's a little light on it. I fucking hated the ending. And we discussed a little bit in our podcast how we read this a little bit differently, and Jose sided with Kyle. They're both wrong. Spoiler alert. This is a movie that's pushing the boundaries or a conversation about gender equality. But the through line is that Dustin Hoffman is falling in love with, I almost said Jessica Chastain. Jesus Christ.
Wrong decade, Dave. Wrong decade.
I'm blanking so
Jessica
hard.
Lange.
It's dumb. Kyle's talking about how, they're just friends. To me, they were trying to add this everybody's happy ending. He already learned the lessons.
Strong enough to be the woman that was the best part of my manhood.
We could just let it go after everything's revealed. Instead, he's got to crawl to this dive bar with his, essentially homophobic would-be father-in-law. And in the end, he chases this woman down and says, we never had the sex, but you fell in love with my personality. In my opinion, he's like, now let's go have the sex. And they hold hands and they walk away in the sunset.
I just don't read it that way, but you can hear us yell at each other on the podcast
don't
itself.
Yell that much.
You can go and watch a bunch of YouTube clips of Dustin Hoffman reacting to like how he approached this movie and how he broke down because he realized how he had been treating other women in his life.
You should give him the quote. It's pretty good.
I can't remember what the quote is off the top of my head though. Basically, I walked past so many like ugly women who were probably interesting, and I knew I was interesting. So like how many people were not giving me the time of day. It does come across as also a little bit self-serving. Like he thinks himself so interesting. Yes. So it's like a little bit weird. I find like I'm glad that he had this like epiphany, but the way he describes it kind of rubbed, I think, all of us the wrong way. It's a weird way to phrase that sentiment.
Alongside his reputation for being one of the great actors, he does have a reputation for being kind of a dick, but
a jerk.
Very self-important.
No one will hire you.
And Jose's great. He's got good insight into, just agreeing with Kyle, which is a little annoying.
Filmmaking and films in general. Teri Garr is the standout for me. I think she's phenomenal.
You told me to turn the tables on him, and I'm playing Rage.
This is Rage?
I have a problem with anger.
She should have won the Oscar over Jessica Lange. It's so unfortunate in many ways. Trying to be a woman in Hollywood is difficult enough. And then, of course, she was diagnosed with MS, I think, in the early 2000s.
No,
so that's why we haven't really seen her for the last 20 years.
It was the year after.
Oh,
in 1983.
Okay. It's too bad, because I just think she's so good. In every movie she comes, I'm like, oh, you're so good.
The writing's so good. Everything's interlaced. It's like Inception.
Everything he is experiencing, he as a man is doing to Teri Garr. I think this is why the ending feels so off for both of us. The writing up until that point has been not shying away from his awfulness. And so it feels a little bit like he's getting away with everything that he's done.
That's the thing. I feel like the redemption, again, in our rewrite class, I think the redemption arc is his big speech, which works really well. We as the audience connect and we're like, yeah, fuck the man. Leave it at that. I mean, what a brilliant sort of thought to leave the theater with, but it became a romance, and I think that was a miss. That being said, I think we all agreed it holds up really well.
I would recommend it.
Did well in our ratings. We'll see how high it keeps up.
We do have Annie coming up, Dave, so I'm sure it's going to get bumped down, right?
I tried to put that
Annie.
on for my son and I a couple of months ago. We lasted 10 minutes, so...
Save it for the Annie review, Dave.
All right, Kyle, let's take a trip down into 1982. We only have 2 entries this week.
Oh, how much
and-
death is there?
Kyle, you're going to be happy. There's no death.
Oh,
March
okay.
9th, someone named Charles Haughey becomes Taoiseach of the Republic of Ireland.
What does that mean?
The head of government, prime minister.
Why is there
Butchered
so
it.
much Ireland stuff?
Ireland was
in this
trending.
1982.
There's 2 entries for March 10th. Number 1, the United States places an embargo on Libyan oil imports, alleging Libyan state-sponsored terrorism. I can't pronounce this, but SYZYGY. Sizgi?
Okay.
All 9 planets align on the same side of the sun.
Ooh. Is that the Age of Aquarius? What is that?
I just watched Hercules from Disney, and that's how the Titans get out.
So the Titans were released. That's what's
Right?
caused all of our issues for the last 40 years.
That's all we got. Titans, cross-dressing, and Ireland. What a great week, 1982.
Sorry, you're too tall.
I can be shorter.
No, I can't use you. Too short.
Oh, I can be taller.
Too moody. Next.
Too old.
Too stubborn.